Drifter's warning, Nezarecs collapse, and Eido conversing with Eramis, which does not look good. Today in week 7 of Season of Plunder, we have more juicy info to dive through. We're heading towards the end of this season and things are ramping up in terms of the plot in some pretty scary ways. Today we're going to go over this week's quest and also this week's lore entry, which hints at what might happen to Eido in the coming weeks. This week's story begins with the Drifter speaking of our pirate shenanigans throughout Plunder. He says, yeah, you're the big shot, big dog out there, but also gives us a warning. He sounds kind of frightened. He says that before we go after Eramis or collect all the parts of this dead disciple of the Witness, be weary. Things might get unpredictable.
Glad I caught you, Guardian. I didn't want you setting off after Eramis without a little warning first. What's that look? You don't survive as long as me without being able to smell trouble. And honestly, kid, you stink of it. You've been cutting a swath through those pirates out there, but don't get complacent. Watch your opponent, but watch your back, too. You're going after chunks of a dead disciple of the Witness, and you've almost got 'em all. That's some serious juju. The stakes are high. That's when folks tend to get unpredictable.
So that's kinda weird. Drifter giving us, the Guardian, a warning. It sounds like it's pretty big. Who is unpredictable though? Is it Eramis? Is it Eido or someone else? After Expedition, this week's pirate hideout has us take on the Scrap Worker. Upon collecting the relic, Mithrax and Drifter speak.
Guardian, you face an Elixni skilled in scrapworking. Her name is Ethics. I have engaged with her before. I doubt her tactics have changed. She hides behind traps and shanks and believes herself clever. She will not face you if she has a choice. Leave her none. The old crews fear you. Fear us. They know they cannot stand in our way.
Looks like Captain Kells found his inner pirate again.
Perhaps it is what I am, and Eramis speaks the truth.
Hey, now, I didn't say that. What's that Eido said to me? Eramis will fight forever to get rid of her shame. Maybe you did that for a while, too. But then you made a safe place for the Elixni. That's what Eramis wants, and she'll never get there. What we do now matters more than who we were.
The Drifter speaks kind truths. Nezarec thanks you.
Drifter over the last 2 weeks has been quite helpful actually. First he kicked off that research into the relics with Eris and they shared some gifts. Last week he was listening to Eido and giving her advice about how she should confront her father and whether to forgive him or not. And this week he lets Mithrax know that he's okay. He's not that pirate he was anymore, and he's helping others. Turning in the relic to the helm, Eido says some crazy stuff. So the collapse we've heard about since Destiny 1 was led by Nezarec apparently. When the Traveler pushed back the darkness, his pyramid ship would crash land on our moon and get buried within.
I've searched for information on Nezarec in the Cryptarchy's records, but most of the primary sources from that era were destroyed. What we know from second-hand accounts is that Nezarec led the Witness's first assault on Earth, or as humans call it, the collapse. After the Great Machine repelled the attack, Nezarec's pyramid crash-landed on your moon. Beyond that, the sources are vague. They hint at a process for harnessing the relic's power, but give no instructions. If we could replicate this ancient methodology, there's no telling what we might accomplish.
So that is awesome. Eido says dark magic can be harnessed and says that we could use it. There's no telling what we could accomplish together. Now that last line right there is our first warning sign. Keep that in mind. Back in the Eliksni quarter, Spider gives us a nice little backstory about Rackus himself. How he was once a pirate Eliksni, but killed that old version of himself and became the Spider, hiding in the shadows where he says it's more safe to do business, something that we Guardians don't do. We're usually out there front and center, killing everything.
Good of you to visit, Captain. Seems like only yesterday I loaned you my ship, and now you're known across the system. Flashy. Not my style. It's safer in the shadows. I learned that long ago from a handsome young fellow named Rackus. He served the old crews for a time. Got double-crossed. Spent the rest of his life running. Eventually, someone claimed the bounty on poor Rackus. He called himself Spider. Savvy? Cashed in the past, bought a future. Walked away, reborn, and never looked back. Like you Guardians do. Like my dear boy Crow. Like Nezarecs, pretending his old life never happened. Oh, he's changed a bit over the years, but the old fury is still inside him, somewhere. It's best he not forget that.
In terms of Spider's scam this week, we get a weapon from him, but this time Eido doesn't detect any interference. This is one of the first times this has happened. We may get an answer to this in the terminal and also the lore entry. The terminal is where things heat up even more and makes you frightened for Eido. Is she planning something with Eramis, and will Eramis kill her?
Eido of the House of Light, Scribe Log Zeta 7AD. At this point in the Guardians' adventures, we have had contact with a great many pirates. Each crew has a unique composition and pledges loyalty to the most powerful among their numbers. They fight for whomever promises them the most power or the most glimmer. They adopt whatever code of honor befits them and concern themselves with little beyond the present. A friend told me that these pirates are not as free as they seem, that their lives are fueled by desperation more than their own desires. But there is still the call of the open stars. These pirates sought to possess the relics of Nezarec. What else might they hold?
Scribe Eido.
Eramis Kell? I greet you in the light.
You are young and honor the old ways. So I will speak gently. You say there are paths that never end. But these are also paths you cannot turn away from. Nezarecs thinks he can. He is wrong. He and I will always be what we are. But we are not something you would wish to become. I remember the whirlwind, and we are running from it. We are running from that pain, and will be forever. You do not want this life.
Eramis.
Do not stand in my way. If we meet again, I will be the last thing you see. You and that hypocrite you call a father.
The datapad hit the tiled floor with a sharp crack as it slipped from Eido's shaking hands. Jumping to her feet, she scrambled to pick it up, inspecting hurriedly for damage. Her shoulders slumped slightly as her eyes landed on the thin fracture across its face. Eido took a breath, ether hissing through her rebreather. It didn't calm her. She stood within one of the half-ruined rooms of the Eliksni quarter. Privacy was a luxury in this place, and Eido took it where she could. Now, staring at her datapad, she was even more grateful for the quiet. Eramis had heard Eido recording her scribe's logs. What else had Eramis intercepted? All of House Light's communications? The petitions to the city for supplies? The transactions for the ether tank? Her father's instructions to his people? Eido knew that this wasn't possible, or shouldn't be, but her scribe's logs were unencrypted. She realized now how naive that had been. She took another breath. Eido had reached out to Eramis before, calling for Elixni unity, and did not think she would receive a reply. But now she knew that Eramis had listened. The Kel had reached out in turn. When Eramis interrupted her scribe's logs, there had been pain in her voice, a pain Eido had never known, a pain she had realized her father had tried to keep from her. "Eido," Nezarec said, appearing at the threshold of the door. His voice was gentle, but Eido flinched nonetheless as her thoughts broke apart. It was worse somehow, hearing him speak gently. She turned over the cracked datapad as if to hide what she had transpired. "Yes, Nezarec Kel?" she answered, too clipped. He bowed his head. Eido stared at her father's silhouette offset by the crumbling building. Silence hung between them for a long moment. "The Guardian has returned," he said, eyes averted. "We have collected another relic." Even now, there was so much unsaid. "A relic of Nezarec," she finished flatly for him. He had known since the beginning. He had known and he had lied, while Eramis had not turned away from the truth. Nezarec said nothing. Eido had been insulted, hurt, and she knew deep down he would not apologize for any of it. "I will study it once I am finished with my scribe's logs," Eido said. She turned away from him, and soon her father's footsteps faded. She looked back to the datapad as if Eramis would speak to her again, now that Nezarec had left, but there was nothing. Eido sighed, her thoughts still racing. Eramis had said she could not turn away from her violence or her vengeance. Eido did not believe that. She could not believe it. This violence was not the Kel's spirit. Eido had to find the part of Eramis that did not rage at the past. Eido had to show the Kel of Darkness a future. Silently, the scribe of House Light began piecing together the coordinates to the next hideout herself. So as Eido was recording all of her logs, Eramis was listening this whole time. Eido says they were unencrypted, which was her fault. She was naive for that. But how did Eramis do it? Were these interferences in the spider's quarters she was picking up from Eramis, or was that just the spider on his own doing something completely different? So something is definitely going to happen with Eido in the coming weeks. She realizes her father had known from the beginning about these relics of Nezarec and not said anything. It then says Eido has to find a part of Eramis that did not rage at the past. Eido has to show the Kel of Darkness a future. And then she finds the coordinates to the next hideout herself, so it seems she's going there to do just that. Anyway, Guardians, that's all we got for today's video. A recap of week 7 of Season of Plunder, and things are getting crazy. Let me know what your favorite week has been so far in the comments below, and your predictions for how the season may end. If you'd like to see some more Destiny lore and mysteries just like this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Anyway, I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.